I'm saying I'm king of the dad jokes. I'm just pretending there's no audio. It's not funny. I thought it'd be funny, but it's not. I don't like that warning in my video. Okay, so I'm going to tell you 3 stories. I'm going to tell you 3 stories, and I'm hoping that this can open some eyes. I'm just not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to be indirect. I'm just going to say this was born of an exchange that I noticed in our ER Shred group relative to, a support leader in the group directing people to resources and then being accused of being cold and mean and cruel. And to me, we need to work through that. I'll work through that towards the end because there is something that needs to be said about that. But first, I want to lay the groundwork. Hi, Rocio. Hi, Kathy. I want to lay kind of the framework of my perception of this now versus my perception of this many, many years ago. Number 1, a story. So I have a friend of mine, and he's in the tech business, and he works with a lot of Japanese businessmen, and his success is very much predicated upon his ability to communicate with and connect with these businessmen over in Asia. And so he'll travel over there, periodically, and and kind of service those relationships and see his partners and so on. And he once told me that a prerequisite of doing business with these, I think they were Japanese businessmen, was they want you to go and spend, the evening with them in order to get to know you and to discover if they trust you enough to do business with you. They want to get you completely drunk, plastered. They want you sloshed. They want you wasted. And they actually have a methodology, if you will. They're doing it by design and intent because it's their belief that a lot of people are disingenuous and fake and have hidden agendas and ulterior motives, and they want to break down all of your inhibitions and all of your facade. They want to get to know the real you. They want you to spill the beans. They want you to have that truth serum so that they can discover whether or not they like the you underneath the facade. It's fascinating. It's very culturally, for me, to hear that is done is by design to discover the due diligence around, do I want to do business with this person? Do I trust this person? And they use that mechanism. That is so fascinating to me. Secondly, I remember once in my line of work, I put a doctor who was a New Yorker on the phone with another doctor who was also a New Yorker. I remember being on the call. I was hoping that this one doctor could influence the other and get this other doctor involved in doing business with us. That was, my motive. It wasn't a hidden motive. It was, that was my motive. Well, on that call, I remember, this was a long time ago. This is probably 15 years ago, but I remember they were going back and forth, and it was very aggressive, and it was very contentious. From my point of view, culturally, I was raised in an environment where, especially if you don't know somebody very well, you talk very respectfully, you have a good, soft tone of voice, you never abruptly say I disagree, you just flow with. It's never, and yet I didn't know that culturally, people from New York or people from Boston, they just say things like it is. Germans, people from Germany, they just say things like it is. They actually do not like it if you beat around the bush. They do not like it if they feel like you're sugarcoating things or if you're spinning things. Good morning, Brent. Hey, Janelle. So with all of that in mind, culturally, we are all very different, depending on where you were born, depending on where you were raised, depending on what religion you were raised with, depending upon what your parents were like. We're all different, very different. And things we can't even see or perceive unless we're unless we've had a ton of experience and a lot of observation and self-awareness. So with that said, what was hilarious was it got to the point where these two doctors, it appeared to me as though they were agitated and they were disagreeing a lot, and there was just so much contention on the call. And I'm sitting there thinking, what have I done? This is catastrophic. This is not effective. Oh my gosh, how do I interrupt them and how do I get them to stop all the madness, because I'm going to lose this guy. I've lost him now. And we get to the end of the call, and the doctor who I was trying to influence goes, well, okay, Sean. All right, well, I've got to go. Thanks for your time. And how do I get signed up for this? How do I get going? And I go, I remember just being in total shock. Like, what just happened? And then it came to my realization, from their perspective, they were not contentious. From their perspective, they were not agitated. They were not argumentative. This is how they communicate with each other. And it was a revelation for me. I actually found it quite refreshing that people could say what they thought and say how they felt and actually voice authentically what's going on in the head. I thought, oh my God, that's a miracle that they could do that, because in my culture, you don't do that. You just don't do that. For me to be able to do that, I had to step into that. And I feel like I've stepped into that to some degree. And it's unbelievably freeing and refreshing and wonderful. Last story. I go to Mexico City. I'm down there with a close friend of mine. And we're walking the streets. And there's all these vendors all over the streets of Mexico City. And, you know, where I was raised, how I am, sarcasm is very commonplace. And it's a form of, humor. And a lot of us employ it, some more than others, some excessively, some to a degree that we wish they would please stop, because they can never stop the sarcasm. But I remember being down there, and there was a man who had made these handmade purses. And I thought, well, I should get one of those for my wife. And I ultimately did get one of those for my wife. But I remember him, I asked, are these handmade? And the guy that was making them said, yes, sir, these are handmade. And then I jokingly looked at my friend, and I kind of, like it was a joke. I turned the purse under and I go, says made in China. And I was just being sarcastic, like, we do that. Like, it's a joke. I don't mean anything by it. But my friend that I was with, a prominent, successful businessman, he said he was offended. Like, he was offended and kind of angry with me for the merchant. And he looks at me and he goes, don't do that. And I was like, what? I was like, what? And he goes, no, this guy made that purse and he takes a lot of pride in that. And I'm like, dude, I was kidding. But to him, there was no humor in that. That is just not something you even joke about. You see what I'm saying? So all three experiences taught me culturally, we're all very different. If you're going to go around assuming that everybody should get you, that everybody should act like you, then you're not very cultured, are you? You're not very cultured as a person. You just haven't had enough dealings with people who have been raised in different states or different countries or different religions or different ethnicities. And it would be good for you to get cultured. But why does all this come to my forefront of my mind? It's because I'll give you one more. Enthusiasm. In a lot of cultures, enthusiasm is sleazy and it's fake, and they perceive it because they say within themselves, what's with this person? What's with this guy? Why is he so enthusiastic? That's not normal. Nobody ever walks around normal, happy like that all the time and joyous and hooping and hollering. And so they interpret you as a charlatan. They interpret you as a snake oil salesman. Why? It's not because you are. You might not be. You were taught to be enthusiastic. You were taught to, to have all that gusto, and if I'm going to influence others, I got to be convinced myself. And yet you don't realize that there's a whole segment of the population that is turned off by your enthusiasm, and they find you to be sleazy and fake. Doesn't mean you are sleazy and fake. You're just doing the best you can with everything you know, with your conditioning and your environment. Why do I say all this? Because I saw an exchange in the group where someone had said, something like, where's the grocery list of foods I could eat? Some question. And then one of our support people said, please refer to she didn't say please, which, to me, it's okay. Refer to guide 3, or it might have said, who sponsored you? You need to check out guide 3. That's all it said. And then an exchange began with another individual that I observed this. They thought that was mean and heartless and cruel and insensitive and cold for an individual to say, see guide 3. Rather than say, oh, hello, so-and-so, how are you? We're so lucky and fortunate to have you here, and all the schmoozy stuff. Now, here's what I'm trying to say is, the individual, I'm not rushing to anybody's rescue. This individual doesn't need me to rescue them. That's not, they're a strong person. Like, they can handle themselves. But I'm trying to explain, it's an opportunity for us to observe and learn. Because this individual who I refer to, the support person, is from back east, and how they deal with shit, and they would say shit, is you just get shit done and you cut through all the fluff. In fact, I know of a surety, I drive this individual nuts. I drive her nuts, because where I come from, you do kind of beat around the bush, and you do kind of, give the roundabout version of the story. You get there eventually. But people from back east, a lot of them, especially business people, it's like, no, it's about like, get cut to the goddamn chase. In fact, I probably would have lost those people on this call already. They'd be like, oh, he's wasting too much of my time. I got to get things done. And yet there's other people who are like me that are like, wow, let's dig through this. Let's reverse engineer this. Let's process this. Let's go circles and circles and circles and circles and circles. It's just how I operate. It's just different. It doesn't mean I'm right and they're wrong, or vice versa. Nobody's right. Nobody's wrong. All just different. So is the individual who says, see guide 3 or refer to guide 3, are they insensitive? Are they cold? No, they're actually not. Not at all. Not even a little bit. That's how they would talk to their neighbor. You see what I'm saying? Like, if they came outside and their neighbor hadn't shoveled their walks, they would probably look at them and say, hey, Susan, you got to shovel your damn walk. And Susan would go, F you. And that's how they communicate. And they don't mean anything malicious. And they actually don't. It's crazy cool. If you can observe it and get okay with it and be chill with it, you can get there. I promise you can get there. But if you're going to let yourself stay in that little pigeonhole, which is, if people aren't communicating the way that I want them to, and what makes me feel good, if people aren't making it feel warm and fuzzy for me and for my people and my customers, then that means that they're wrong. It doesn't mean that. Not at all. In fact, if you were to greet one of their customers, if one of their customers was to say, hey, can I have this? Can I have that? Where can I find this? Where can I find that? And if you were to come in with your schmooze, not that that's a bad thing, but, schmooze is schmooze. And you were to come in and say, oh my gosh, what a great question. That was a phenomenal question. And we're so happy and proud that you're brave enough to ask this question. And don't you worry, I'm going to get you pointed in the right direction. I've got solutions for you. And if you were to really sugarcoat that, the other individual might come to you and say, or think in the back of their minds, why are you schmoozing them? Like, why are you being so schmoozy? What's your angle? What's your intention? What are you trying to get out of them? Let's not be so schmoozy. We want to be authentic. We want to be real. We want to be We don't want to make people think that we have to be fake nice. And you're going, I'm not being fake nice. I'm just nice. But to them, your nice is fake nice. And to you, their nice is mean. So all I'm trying to say is, this is the problem, what's wrong with our world. This is the problem, what's wrong with religion. This is the problem in terms of what's wrong culturally, is that we don't take the opportunity to give grace, let it lie, take a step back, don't pass judgment, and just observe. And you know what? If someone doesn't like you, or you don't like someone, I've got to the point where I don't have people I don't like. I've got to that point. It's really refreshing, because I was the most judgmental person. I really was one of the most judgmental people. And I had a whole list of people I didn't like. And if I saw them, it would ruin my day. And if I had exchanges with them, I would spend the rest of the day thinking all the awful things they did and how they are. And it's the coolest thing, because through my experiences, like leaving my religion and becoming more cultured and open-minded, I don't have people who can disturb my peace anymore. In fact, the people that I didn't like for whatever reason, whatever it was that bothered me, doesn't exist for me anymore. And I can see them and I can converse with them, and it has no ill effect on me. And I don't walk away thinking, I hate them for this, I hate them for that. They were wrong about this, they were wrong about that. I know they're lying about this, I know they're lying about that. They are manipulating me. And I don't have any of those judgments going on inside me of it anymore. Could they potentially be doing any of that? Yes. But that is none of my business. I will not go there anymore, and I haven't for a very long time. And I got to tell you, for me personally, it's a stage of evolution that has been unbelievably liberating and empowering. So in the group, if you don't like someone's answer, you don't need to confront them. Just consider that that's how they are. That's how they answer. That's how they speak. That's how they communicate. Don't put meaning on it. Don't put any meaning on any of it. Because if you put meaning on it, from my viewpoint now, you become a bridge burner. And you want to be a bridge builder. You want to be a bridge builder. Is it possible that people who, for whatever reason, I rub the wrong way, is it possible that they're just wrong about me? It's very possible. Very much possible, because they're looking through a lens of glasses that they've had on their entire lives, and they don't know those glasses are on. And it affects everything. Yeah, thank you, Rocio. Scroll on. Scroll on for your sake of your peace of mind, and for the sake of the overall greater good, and the sake of tolerance, scroll on. And don't feel the need to, guess what? You think you're going to change people. Like, I'll just use this case in point. I can't believe how unwelcoming you are to our customers. I can't believe you would just say, see the guides. But you don't realize, when you address people in that way, they're gonna feel the need to defend themselves. Like, what's your goal? Is your goal to make the world a better place? Is your goal to live in more harmony? Is your goal actually to make them behave the way that you think they should behave? Greet people the way that you would greet people? Because it's never going to happen. So if it's never going to happen that you're going to take someone that has a lifetime of conditioning, a lifetime of looking through their lenses, they only know one way, and you're going to try to make them, you need them to fall in line and basically mold and morph into your way of seeing the world for your sake. Otherwise, we're going to have contention, because all you're doing by exposing to them what bothers you about them is causing contention. Nobody ever was accused of doing something unkind or unwell or wrong. Nobody ever just said, you know what? Thank you for bringing that to me. I've been wrong a lot. I've done a lot of wrong things, and you're probably right. I probably am wrong. Tell you what, will you help me? Could you teach me how to do it the way you would do it? Because I must not know how. I must not be skilled at that or proficient at that. I thought I did an okay job. Will you teach me? Nobody's going to do that. So why are you addressing them directly and using words like unkind and cruel? It's just going to make them want to defend themselves. Then you're going to end up with more contention, which breeds more contention, which ultimately ends with what? Segregation, intolerance, division. Come on, guys. It's not necessary. You're talking about apology, Brent. Sometimes even an apology is given too late. It's happened to me, buddy. Yeah, I get that. An apology is given late, but you want to evolve to the place where you don't need the apology. Maybe you're saying that you apologized late, which, hey, if you were in the wrong and you realized it and you apologized late, there's no such thing as a late apology as far as I'm concerned. An apology is a form of security. It's a demonstration of evolution. It's a demonstration of humility. It's fantastic. But if you expect an apology from other people, forget that. Forget it. Just let it go. You don't need anybody to apologize to you. You need to move on. And because, again, are we thinking the other person was wrong? The other person was wrong. The other person was wrong. They apologized. Therefore, now we know for sure they were wrong. But if you can get to the place where even if you were grieved, even if you had there was a legitimate offense done to you, and you have the ability to just go, that's about them. That's not about me. That's about them. That's their stuff. I'm not going to make that about me. I'm not going to spend any breath on that. I'm not going to spend any time on that. I'm not going to offer up any energy to that. I don't have time or energy for that. My vibration must stay high. And my expectation, what do expectations do? We all know it. We say it all the time. Expectations reduce joy. You want to be disappointed? Have expectations. People will let you down. Drop the expectation and your joy, it goes up. Ultimately, what are we after? We're after what? Better relationships. We're after, we're after joy. We're after, tolerance. What do we ultimately want? And we have to say, is it worth this fight over something so minuscule? To address someone directly, and then, and you're gonna go spend an hour researching it so you can prove yourself right? Who cares? Like, I stopped doing that. If someone wants to think I'm wrong, if I am wrong, it's okay. And hopefully, if I'm wrong and I really do need to be corrected, that will happen through self-awareness. That's why you're better off to say, I understand that you see it that way. I'd like to just offer a differing perspective. This is the way that I see it from my view. But don't ever say you're wrong, and don't ever say you're mean and you're this and you're that, because it's most likely they're not being that. And especially in text form. You cannot, what I've started doing is lots of voice messages, because in text form, like for instance, if someone was to say, hey Sean, I know at the last minute, hey Sean, I know that I said I would come on the Come Alive call and share my testimonial, but I can't, or I won't, or whatever, I'm not going to, and I have a conflict, or whatever it might be. If I put in the text, okay, no problem. People could actually interpret that as, why was he so short with me? I mean, people actually do that. Do you know teens today, if you say it's okay, and they have like code language that I was unfamiliar with, but if you say it's okay, and you don't put like a period at the end or 2 periods at the end, it means you're mad. It's okay. But you could be saying, it's okay. Or you could be saying, it's okay. And they mean completely different things. That's why text is dangerous, and we need to get a little more personal. I do so many of those voice clips whenever I'm doing with communication about important things I don't want to be misperceived about, canceled appointments, whatever it might be. It's like I do the voice message so they can hear the tone in my voice, that I'm sensitive to their situation, that I understand, and that, hey, it's okay. Not, it's okay. Totally different. So guys, can we get on board with this? Do we want to grow? Because that's part of what the ER Shred culture is and community is. It's not just about a nutritional protocol where we get well. It's also about, can we all commune together and live together and get along? Can we all find common ground and be bridge builders instead of be intolerant, rushing to judgment, rushing to misinterpretation, assuming the worst, and accusing people of awful things that aren't true? You see what I'm saying? We've got to be aware. You also do have to be aware of your audience. So you have to be aware that not everybody, on the flip side, not everybody is used to short and sweet and definitive. Bang! Not everybody's used to that. So for some people, I've had to learn with my wife, if my wife tells me about something that she's experiencing, and she tells me a story, and then she'll stop. And sometimes if I go, cool, she'll just look at me like, cool? That's all you got for me is cool? And I'm like, oh, am I supposed to have more than cool? I didn't know I was supposed to have more than cool. Like I was cool with cool. You're not cool with cool? But in reality, I've learned from my wife now, to the point where we have such awareness that I will look at my wife, no kidding, and she will tell me the story. She'll pause. I'll look at her, I'll go, you want me to say something about that, don't you? And then she'll say, well, yeah, I was hoping you had input. I was hoping that, what's your point of view on that? Or yeah, tell me what you think. And we've got to the point where we can actually communicate with it, rather than her assuming that the word cool means I don't give a damn what you're talking about. It doesn't mean that. It just might mean I don't really have a lot to say about that subject matter. Or, I'm sorry, but that doesn't really interest me. But if she needs me to show up for her, she needs to communicate that to me, which I open the door. Do you want me to share my thoughts about that? And sometimes it's cool because sometimes I was wrong. And sometimes she goes, no, I really don't want you to share your thoughts about that. I just needed to tell somebody you're good. And like our communication has grown leaps and bounds just by the ability to say, what did I just do that rubbed you wrong? And then she tells me why it didn't work for her. And I'm like, well, I didn't mean for that to happen. Whoa, earth shattering. Talk about like change your marriage, save your marriage, but it works in all communication. Do you understand? Guys, do we want to be growers? Because if you're saying to yourself, I don't care about any of this, I don't even know how this relates to ER Shred, then you don't understand what ER Shred is. ER Shred is a growth empowerment protocol / community / journey. It's all inclusive. It's the tribe, it's the protocol, which teaches you how to have self-awareness of body, physical. It's the self-awareness that leads to around the mental and the emotional, and then the relationship health, and it's all interconnected. And if you can't see that, then you're not an ER shredder. You would know. You would know what I'm talking about. And if you think I'm full of shit, that's okay. Because I'm cool with it. I'm not speaking to you if you think I'm full of shit. I'm speaking to my tribe. I'm speaking to the people that are in that same space of we want to grow. We want to improve. We know we can get better. We know we'll never arrive. We know that, oh my God, me for instance, what it's all done for me, all of it being interconnected, what it's all done for me, I've grown more in the last year and a half than I did the previous 20 years of adulthood. I've grown more in the last year and a half through self-awareness than I did. And guess what? Not a knock on life coaches. Not a knock on life coaches. Very beneficial. Very beneficial. I want to make sure that I say that. Very beneficial. Needed profession. A lot of phenomenal, very intelligent people in that sphere. But I got to tell you something that I believe based on my experience. The ultimate life coach is yourself. But you have to be able to if you were to think about an out-of-body experience where you're able to step outside yourself and somehow, some way, the ER shred, the whole enchilada there, it has empowered me to the point where I've been able to step outside of myself and view myself. And it's something about being unmuted. It's something about removing all the fluff and all the sticky, asphyxiating, all those webs of whatever. And you strip it down to a base, you clean it out, you're not putting in all the muting things, you're not muted. And we're meant to grow. As a species, we're meant to grow. And all of a sudden, you go, I can view myself. And you start to view yourself as other people view you. And it's a completely different experience. And you start to comprehend why you do rub a lot of the people the wrong way. You start to comprehend why you don't allow people to get to know you as much as you really should. You start to comprehend why you're not as effective in your relationships and communication. You start to comprehend why you're not as effective in your career. You start to understand that you're not living your dream, that you're not being your true self, that you're not empowered. I've been there. I've been there. Would I say I'm empowered now? I would. Would I say I'm empowered to the utmost? Would I say I'm optimally empowered to the utmost level, extent? No way. No way. If I was, I wouldn't have all the stress. So many of the things I stressed about through my 20s and my 30s, I don't stress about anymore. And it's not because the stressors left. It's because I've stepped into empowerment around those things. And guess what? If you said, well, that's life experience, of course you get better at that. To some extent, that's true. But I also know people in their 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s who are still suffering from all of the same governors, if you will, the same inhibitors. They're all suffering. And you see it, and they don't change, they don't evolve, they don't improve. Not that I put judgment on that, but they're stuck. They know they're stuck, and they kind of resign to the fact that life is just as is. This is my reality. I surrender. I succumb to the fact that my life is just as is. They turn very negative. They don't have joy. They're very jaded. They're very cynical. They're not fun to be around because they're very low vibrational. And so you just ask yourself, just observe it, say, I see that. I don't judge them for that. I've been there, but I want to grow. I want to grow. Does the phrase I want to grow, is that condescending? Is that a phrase that makes people think that, I hope not, because I didn't want to grow for a very long time. And I actually thought that I grew. I thought that I was enough. And I thought that nothing was wrong with me. Everything was wrong with everybody else and the world, and it was not me. But there is nothing wrong with me because all I am is a product of my conditioning and environment. Becoming aware of that is the gift. And then becoming aware of observation of others. That's why they are the way they are. That's why they behave the way they behave. That's why they talk the way they talk. And you know what? Completely unrealistic for me to project on them my expectations. Can we find tolerance around all of this? Is any of this making sense? I really hope so. Because otherwise, you're going to say, this tribe is not for me. It's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily true. And you can go there in a hurry. But if you go there and do that, I bet you've done it before. And I bet you've done it in other environments. And I bet you've done it in other circles and in your neighborhood. And, it's the kind of mentality where we have to move. Why do you have to move? because this neighborhood is shit. This neighborhood is gossip. This neighborhood is da 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 da. And you don't realize that move. You go right ahead and move. And you're going to find the same in another neighborhood. And so it's up to you to evolve. It's up to for you to grow, because you can't focus on changing other people. So for me, for instance, was there a time when I left my religion and I was like, we got to get the F out of Utah? I was there. What's up, Heather? I was there. We got to get out of Utah. Oh my gosh, we got to get out of Utah. And I don't need to go into the stereotype of, what I was feeding Utah. Bottom line is, we decided not to get out of Utah. And our logic was, we're going to change things for the better. That was our logic 3 years ago. We actually said to ourselves, Crystal and me, we said, we're going to be brave. We're going to change things for the better. Okay. All right. 3.5 years later, I'm realizing we're not changing anything. We are changing. We are changing. And we're starting to realize that people's judgment of us doesn't mean nothing. And that judgment would exist in almost any neighborhood, in any county, in any city, in any, on any street, all over America, all over Italy, all over the Netherlands. It don't matter. Welcome to the complexity of humanity. We're emotional beings, and until we have the ability to see beyond ourselves and our conditioning, things will not change for you. The minute you start to realize it's you have to change the way you see the world. Change your story. Change your story. Just change it. I've changed stories, and it works, and it's so priceless. Change your story. What do you mean change your story? All right. For 20 adult years, whenever I saw 11:34 on the clock, I would turn it upside down and it would read hell. And if I ever saw 1:34, it would read to me hell. And believe it or not, this was all born of my story, which was I had lied to my wife about viewing pornography. I had lied to my church leaders about viewing pornography. And I was told that if I had viewed pornography and hid it, that I was a cheater. And I actually, even now, I have no emotional energy sharing this with you, because I, believe it or not, I don't view pornography anymore. But it's not because I'm going to sit here and demonize pornography. I'm not going to do it. There's some pornography that needs to be demonized. You're darn right. But that's not why I'm going there. The reason I'm going there is I lived with 20 years with shame and guilt. And every time I saw 134, 1134, which I had 4 opportunities to see that in a 24-hour period of time. And it seems like I saw it every day 4 times. That's what it felt like, because I was convinced that I was going to hell. That there was a God in the sky with a white beard who was angry with me, and I was going to hell. When I died, I'd go to hell. I really believed that. And some of you believe that, stuff like that. You believe it. But I changed the story. And the new story that I came up with was, where's my beard comb? The new story that I came up with, I made up a new story. And I said, every time I see 134 or 1134, you're damn right. Because I couldn't stop turning it backwards. I couldn't stop. They say, like, the problem with pornography use is born of oppression. It's born of suppression. It's born of, don't picture a pink elephant. Everybody listening that hears this and sees this, do not picture a pink elephant. And then don't do it. Don't you picture a pink elephant. And you do, because you can't help it. And that's what happens. It's psychological. From the human perspective, you tell people, do not view that, do not view that. You're not allowed to see that. That is toxic. That is satanic. That will ruin your marriage. That is poison. And it makes you want to view it for some crazy reason. And what's the miracle that I've found around all these other men that didn't want to view pornography and yet they were, was that the men, they couldn't stop. And then you label it addiction. Oh my God, you're addicted to pornography. So now they've been labeled, which I don't agree with either. But what's crazy is when I got out of those parameters and I decided that I'm not going to see pornography as those things anymore, and my desire or my taste for pornography isn't there. It's gone. It's like completely gone. So I say to you, don't picture a pink elephant. You're going to picture that pink elephant. So every single time that I see 134 and 1134, just like ER shred flips everything upside down and up and inside out, I flipped it. And what I do now is if I see 134, 1134, I say, hell. I escaped a living hell. And I rejoice, and it brings gratitude into my heart for my newfound life and my ability to embrace what I am and who I am and how I am, and to not feel shame and to not feel guilt and to not hate myself and to not feel like there's this angry deity or whatever in the sky that loathes me and that is secretly, he's gonna burn, the gnashing of teeth and and all the weeping and wailing, ha ha ha, burn in hell. It's like, no, hell doesn't exist for me. There is no hell. The only hell to me is what we create on this earth by not being our true selves and by not following our heart and by not, doing what we know is right. So with all that said, I escaped hell. And now I still see 1134 like multiple times a day, every single day. And I do identify with it because I can't help it. And then I have this moment every day, a couple times a day, where I go, I escaped hell. I could have stayed in that hell for another 10 years, another 20 years, another 30 years. I could have lived my whole life in that hell. I could have died in that hell. And what joy it is. What joy. I breathe it in now. My friend Lenny Evans, he taught me to breathe it in. So whenever I feel like, do I even deserve to feel this good? Do I even deserve to overcome? Do I even deserve to be happy and to have joy? Do I really deserve to feel that burden is gone? And then I say, don't move on, Sean. Don't move on from it. Stay there in that space. Breathe it in. Breathe it in. Just like bathe in it, relish in it, enjoy it. Because it's my most proud accomplishment. My most proud accomplishment of my entire life is escaping an environment that was absolutely squeezing the life out of me. To escape that. To realize that I viewed the world through the goggles that they put on me. My exchanges with other people, all my dealings, my everything, the way I parented, everything was born of indoctrination. Can indoctrination come from politicians? Can indoctrination come from organizations like network marketing companies? Can indoctrination come from sports organizations? It's everywhere. And until you realize you are a sovereign nation, you're a sovereign nation. When you get there, is when the growth starts to accelerate and compound, and all of a sudden your wife says something to you like, damn, like, how are you growing? And you're like, I see it in you too. And you just kind of look at each other like, this is good shit. It's the ultimate, you guys. So please stay in this space. Don't get offended. Or leave this space. If based on your goggles or your conditioning or your whatever, if it's not your space, please by all means honor that and leave the space. Please. It's okay. We don't proclaim to be a tribe for all people. We're a tribe for a very unique type of people, which is our like kind. And I don't say that in a divisive way. I also understand that there are people that are not like me. There are people that are very formal in nature. I'm not formal in nature. There are people that like to go to the arts and like to view a Broadway show. I'm not that guy. And that's okay. And even if you feel like, but I'm in your tribe and we're in the same tribe and I like to go do that stuff, that doesn't mean anything. But I know that I don't resonate with a lot of people, and I'm okay with that. That's totally fine and cool with me. And it doesn't mean anything about me, and it doesn't mean anything about you. See what I'm saying? And if you feel like I just keep getting offended in this tribe, consider that either you have to grow. Don't put it on other people. Either you have to grow, or it might not be your tribe. You can go find your tribe. It's okay. And we do wish you well if that's the case, and we harbor no ill will, and we're not exclusionary and everything else. But honoring the culture of the tribe is important. Pretending that the tribe will facilitate all types of people and all different, that's disingenuous, and it's not going to work. It'll lead to a very shallow, like my relationships in Mormonism was very shallow. Surface level. Nice people. I liked them, but the relationships, there was no depth of relationship because we weren't permitted to delve down into the depth of our human experience. The reason being that we were told not to talk about hard times. We were kind of culturally, you don't dwell on the bad. You don't focus on the hard things. And yet it's those hard times and those mistakes and those, challenges and trials that actually bond us together and break down barriers. So for me, the depth of relationship I have now, even with Mormons, has increased. It's not as good as it could be for various reasons. Some of them it's there, but I don't put that on them. I don't. It's cultural. It's just cultural. And to them, their relationships have depth, but for me, it was insufficient because I love to just be honest and vulnerable and radically honest, and I like to be totally authentic, and when I'm in that space is when I feel the most growth and the most joy. And that's, I feel like, what our tribe is attracting. People who their whole lives they felt like they didn't fit in, but it's not because they didn't fit in, it's because what was socially, politically, environmentally acceptable in their region or where they were born, they don't mesh with it. And so we're attracting a lot of those people who their whole lives they're like, why don't I fit in? Why do I feel like I don't fit in with the cliques at high school? Why do I feel like I don't have all that many friends? Like, there's a lot of us. Like, why do I feel like I don't get invited to the parties? Why do I feel? Which you don't put meaning on that anymore. You just don't. It's fine. It's okay. It's what is. But you start to realize there was never anything wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with them. But you needed to be comfortable in your own skin to the extent that you Let yourself be seen as you are, and only then can you attract your like kind. Does this make sense? It'd be like going out in the wilderness with a flashlight, and you want to find your tribe, and you want your tribe to find you, but you won't turn on the flashlight. Because you're like, if I turn on the flashlight, everybody's going to know that I'm over here. Or maybe I'll point it wrong, or maybe my flashlight's not as bright as other people. That's embarrassing. Or, maybe we tell ourselves all these stories. And so-and-so said, I'm bad at shining the light. I keep shining it in their face and they don't like it. Or, and it's like we do this to ourselves until we finally realize, like, oh my God, a lot of people like me with flashlights out here. Safe to turn on that light. And they turn it on. And now they're their true self. And because the environment and the tribe is so all inclusive and accepting and tolerant, everybody goes, woohoo, we found you. And you're like, you found me, I found you. And then everybody goes, I like you. And you're like, you like me? Am I shining the light right? And they're like, you do great. You shine it a little different than all of us. We all shine it a little different. You're good. And you're like, oh, I can just shine it the way I do? Really? Like, nobody's gonna like blast me or belittle me or, like shame me? No, you're good. Shine it, shine it, shine it. And all of a sudden, when people realize they're cool to shine it as they wish, guess what's born? More of their true self comes out, and you realize, whoa, there's a lot of really cool stuff hiding in there. And some of these people, they've never been permitted or felt permitted to let it all out. And you go, I love them. I love that person. If any of you are watching this and you think I love Sean Escobar, I love you too. And for probably different reasons and for various reasons, I love you too. And I love you as you are. I do love you as you are. And I would never expect you to be any different than you are. And you're enough. And be more of you. And feel safe in that. All right. Guys, we better get on with the day. I'm a pretty long-winded dude. I probably lost all my East Coasters who, they're like, God, this guy talks for a long time. He's going in circles. What's he even saying? How does he talk in so many circles without getting to the point? Did we get to a point? I don't know.